San Jose District 3 Japantown Candidates Forum with the JBA, Japantown Business Association, representing our Japantown commercial businesses, and the JNA, Japantown Neighborhood Association, representing Japantown residents of District 3. This afternoon is an opportunity to meet and hear from the candidates for the special election in April on topics important to San Jose Japantown. Your presence today reaffirms that San Jose Japantown matters. It's an area that, due to city policy, became an immigrant community due to the destruction of existing Chinatowns throughout San Jose. It's a diverse community that welcomed Filipino and Japanese migrant workers and is now the home to many ethnicities. And while we face many things that are common throughout the city of San Jose, such as homelessness and crime, some of our struggles are unique, such as a cultural and historic community. We hope that the new District 3 council person has an understanding and are sensitive to our unique challenges. So a few housekeeping items tonight. The restrooms are located to the rear of the room in that corner. And in the event of an emergency, if you need to evacuate, our ushers in the red vests will escort you to exit the building. And now I'd like to introduce you to our moderator from the League of Women Voters, Gloria Chilton.
Thank you so much, Pamela. This is a pleasure for the League of Women Voters to be here. You know, we're an organization that is over 100 years old, and so it's a delight that we've been asked by the 3 organizations in Japantown to be here with you to help you get information about the candidates so that you can make some wise decisions. So League of Women Voters, by the way, which also welcomes men as members, is a non-partisan, so we never support or oppose any candidate or party. But we are a nonprofit organization of women and men established to promote political responsibility through informed, active participation in government. And this is wonderful to see you all here tonight, because this is how we keep democracy strong. Although the League does not support any candidate who take positions on issues, and so you will sometimes hear often, for example, the League will take a position on ballot measures, on legislation, and so forth, because we have studied certain issues and we are looking to have an understanding of those issues that will make us a better community. The format for today's forum will be as follows. You see before you the 7 candidates. Each candidate will first make a 2-minute introduction, so they can tell you who they are, what they represent. Then the 3 sponsoring organizations, Japantown Community Congress, Japantown Business Association, and Japantown Neighborhood Association, have developed 3 specific questions that relate to the concerns of this community. The candidates have received those questions in advance, and they'll respond, and that is limited to 2 minutes. After that, some of you have already filled out some cards. If you have questions, fill out the cards. My colleagues from the League of Women Voters sitting up here will be vetting those questions so that they're fair questions and they're not repeated. So if you have any questions, I think we have some cards at the front and some pencils. And of course, due to time limitations with so many candidates, we may not have time to get to all of them, but we'll do our very best. For the second round, for the round of questions from you, the time will be 1 minute, candidates. And there will also perhaps be, I like to throw in a lightning round question. We'll see if we have time for that. We have, of course, from the community, 3 timers. And if you will show them, we have 2 timers, a 20-second timer. And when you get that, we should be wrapping up the questions, and then we have a hard stop. And because we're on a time limit, and our candidates are going to another forum after this, we have a hard stop. So there's no forgiveness, clear stops, please stop. And I want to thank you all for being here today. Now, we did an interesting card game earlier. So the order of, so that we don't always start with the same person and end with the same person, so that the second person is reached with the first candidate. We scrambled it up. We have cards taken, and so we have a different order of question, and so we, at least for the first few, and then we'll scramble it some more. So, we'll start with the 2-minute presentation, and I'd like to introduce first all of the candidates who are running for San Jose City Council, and they are listed in front of you, and we will now have them each to do an introduction, and again, it's 2 minutes. First person to make an introduction comes up is Mr. Adam Duran. Mr. Duran?
Hello and good afternoon. My name is Adam Duran, and I've lived in the District 3 area for over 5 years now. I'm born and raised in San Jose, on San Jose's east side. And I have been retired now close to about 4 years, close to about 4 years now. Worked in law enforcement for just about 29 years. So I've been in public safety most of my life. And I come around this area quite often. Many of you know that I have been a runner for 35 years. And my familiarity with Japantown is boots on the ground, tennis shoes on the ground. And in my former job, I worked with many different entities within the department. One, working with the acute psychiatric inmates, also working with the those who were severely addicted to substance abuse. And within that, I worked in an area called programs. Back in 2012, we had a judicial reform, prison realignment, AB 109. I worked in programs, and I helped open up the building, the reentry center, which is just a few blocks from here, wherein I helped connect many people coming out of custody to reintegrate them back into the community. I worked with them to plug them into general assistance, plug them into the pantry, food pantry, clothing, jobs, expungement programs. So I'm very familiar with working with the community and the challenges. I also helped, I retired as a watch commander lieutenant. I helped to navigate through the pandemic, and as many of you know, jails and prisons were not meant for it. So I'm used to challenges, and I take them head on, and I will fight and fight for you.
Thank you. A very good job stopping in the time that just about. Very good. Our second person to make an introduction herself is Eileen Smith. Ms. Smith.
Last time I didn't work. I'm Eileen Smith, and I have spent 35 years living, voting, and raising my family in D3. My time in Japantown, I spent time at Roy's and the Farmers Market. We do business, our family, in Japantown with the optometry store as well as the medical group. And I can remember Subaru, where we would put my daughter's bassinet on the table when we would have dinner in Japantown. I certainly helped with dumpster days, so did my husband, and I worked with Rich with the Keep Japantown Safe and the patrols. I find that Japantown is a compelling reminder of what D3 and what all of San Jose can be. If we focus on the small businesses, the mom and pops in Japantown, we can find that there's the importance of voluntary activity and looking out for one another. And we can see the exceptional mixed use here of both the residential and commercial. We have a 15-minute walk city in Japantown. Because Japantown is so culturally special and a great urban example, I'm recommending that Japantown be designated a special use district. I'll cover that more later. But Japantown will be able to guide its own development based on its needs and its legacy. Japantown is all about strength and independence. My campaign is all about independence. I have a unique mix of social local activism with fiscal discipline. I've spent 20 years at IBM, most of it in finance. I started 3 businesses in downtown D3 and 4 local advocacy groups. And I came in second to Omar in 2022. I'm just so excited to be here with you and be in Japantown tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate, Mr. Tyrone Reed.
Hi,
I'm
everyone.
sorry, Matthew. Wait,
No worries at all. Hi everyone, my name is Matthew Chiretto. It's a pleasure to be here before you all. My wife and I were blessed to purchase a home in 2020 on 12th and Empire, so not too far from Japantown proper. Over the past several years, we've been seeing a lot of issues, right? Focused on homelessness, on safety, on blight, beautification, and importantly in Japantown, we've seen issues around the small business community not having access to City Hall. I run for City Council because I want to focus on all of those things to make sure we're solving them at a faster rate in which we have them. When we're focused on the issues and we're focused on partnering with the business community through the Japantown Business Association here and the Japantown Neighborhood Association, we can commit ourselves to solving these problems and facing the challenges head on to ensure we're ending street homelessness, we're rebuilding our police department, to ensure we're ending the blight that exists across our neighborhoods and across our city, and ensure we're supporting our small businesses to build an economy that supports your city government and the many beautiful community neighborhoods that we have throughout our city. I'm glad to be a part of the mayor's office right now as the deputy chief of staff. For over the past 4 years, I've been working with the mayor and other council members and other offices and in other neighborhoods across the city to build coalitions, to end street homelessness, and to build the inner housing that we need immediately. I am going to be a fighter for District 3, knowing that my wife, my 2 sons, who are being raised here in this beautiful neighborhood, are going to have the opportunity to see a safe, vibrant city, and one that your city government is focused on. So I'm glad to be here this evening. Thank you so much for having us today. Looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you. Next candidate to introduce himself is Mr. Tyrone Reed. Oh, Mr. Japantown, sorry about that.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes.
That's a yes?
Yes.
My name is Tyrone Wade. I was a resident of San Jose and East Side San Jose, District 3 for a long time.
Hold the mic closer to your mouth.
We grew up, in District 3, North 6th Street, Prayer Garden Church of God in Christ. We lived there. I want to bring to San Jose health, opportunity, progress, and education. I want to make San Jose, District 3, the hub of Silicon Valley. Health, education, opportunity stands for hope. I want San Jose East, this district, District 3, to be the hope of Silicon Valley. I was a Michigan crisis counselor, so I dealt with homelessness, disabilities. I've worked for 5 counties and cities in the Bay Area. I've run 2 homeless shelters. So all these issues I am familiar with. I have a solution for all that. I have a solution for housing the homeless. There are several ways of doing that. We can do underground housing. We can do 3D printed construction. These are solutions to the problem that we should consider. So I thank you for giving me the time and opportunity to be here today. And looks like my time is running out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Next speaker, Mr. Anthony Frias.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Frias. I'm an engineer, a planning commissioner, and a neighborhood president here in downtown. And I'm running because I want to be a council member to do all in town hall. I've spent a lot of time out of the doors talking to voters, including here in Japantown for the past few months. And a recurring theme that I'm seeing is that a lot of folks seem to have lost trust in their local government. I think that's in part due to the scandal that led to this vacancy in the first place. But I also think it's because folks are just not seeing the progress and the urgency that they expect from their city government. Housing is so much too expensive. Too many of our neighbors are living on the streets without shelter. Too many of our small businesses are struggling to get by. And too many people don't feel safe in their own city. I want to bring a new approach to City Council that prioritizes new ideas, evidence-based policy, and a strong focus on community engagement and neighborhood outreach so that we can tackle all of these problems with the urgency that our residents here in District 3 really deserve. My husband and I are fortunate enough to be homeowners in the South University neighborhood by San Jose State, and I serve as the president of the South University Neighborhood Association, where I work to bring our neighbors together to clean up our streets, invest in public art projects, and hold events to help our neighbors build community. I also represent District 3 as chair of the San Jose Planning Commission, where I've developed experience working at City Hall on the issues of housing, homelessness, and economic development, and where I've used my platform to advocate for policies to improve affordability and prevent displacement of working families. Like Irene, I would say that my favorite way to spend time in Japantown is grabbing coffee at Roy's, and during the summer spending a nice morning at the farmer's market. I'm running because I want to, again, be a councilman that can restore trust in local government and show that we can actually deliver results for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is again Chavez Lopez.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for being here and being active participants in our democracy. As mentioned, I'm Japantown Lopez, and it's an honor to be a candidate running for District 3. I moved to District 3 over 22 years ago, and for my family, District 3 in San Jose represented opportunity and possibility. I was raised by two educators who really instilled in me the values of public service, giving back to community, responsibility, and ultimately respect of others. And so I'm making sure that as I'm raising my 6-year-old son here in the district, that he has those values instilled in him as well, and that I'm making sure that San Jose is a place that he can be proud to be born and raised in. I have lived in the district for over 15 of those years, and I have contributed everything that I can to making this community better and uplifting its residents. I currently serve as the executive director of the Latino Coalition of Silicon Valley, which really elevates women's leadership and their voices in civic discourse and positions of influence. I have also been very active in my career in housing policy and advocacy, as well as working in philanthropy, making sure that communities have the resources that they need in order to thrive. I've been a very active participant in supporting our small businesses and making sure as well that they have resources, and I have been dedicated to working cross-sector to be able to solve some of our biggest challenges. I'm very proud of my track record in bringing resources not only from the federal government, from state government, as well as county government, to be able to support residents on the ground. And so whether it was my leadership in Measure B, which has generated over $100 million in affordable housing funding for our city, or it's training thousands of women to have access to good paying jobs in the city and connecting to our leading employers, I have been about uplifting others and never taking people when they're down. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Our final candidate is Mr. Phil Dolan.
Hi, my name is Phil Dolan. I'm 49 years old. Japantown, for me, has a lot of history for me. My father was born in 1928. He was in the Korean War, and he ruled in Japan as an occupational troop. So when I was little, he would bring us down here. We always talk about the culture of Japantown and the importance, and always instilled there was only 40 Japantowns. So it's always been something that he's talked about, he's loved, the culture he's always been into. It's a big thing. I grew up by a flea market in San Jose, so my mom would go shopping, my dad would take us to the flea market, or he would come down to Japantown. When we came down to Japantown, there was always a history lesson from him when he was a younger child, when he was in World War II, and about the preservation of Japantown. The reason I'm running for city council is every morning, I know it, you guys know it, I'm sure everybody here knows it, when we wake up, we go out on the street, I go out on Julian Street, and there's nothing but homelessness, there's nothing but trash, graffiti, and you name it, throw a dart, you'll hit the bullseye. I'm tired of it, the neighbors are tired of it, and we want answers from the city. As a city councilman, you can have my phone number, you can know where I live, I want to know who you are, you want to know who I am there for you. If you have a dream, I'm part of that dream, I'm part of that vision for you to clean this city up. In my job that I do now, I've never worked in anything with government, it's always been I work for a uniform company, Federal Express, now I'm a knife sharpener, so I work with a lot of business, Trio Communications over here I work with, and Carton is one of the rest stores we work with. So when chefs come to me or managers come to me, it's about a solution that I have to provide for them. If I don't provide a solution for them, they can easily kick me out and remove me. So part of my plan is when I become a city councilman is I will have a solution when you come up to me and say, Philip, what is the problem? How are you going to fix this problem? If I will bring the solution to you even.
Thank you. Appreciate everyone staying on time. A comment, we will now move to the 3 questions that the sponsoring organizations asked that are specific to Japantown. I will also comment and suggest to our panelists and our candidates that while you have a maximum of 2 minutes, one can always give a succinct, shorter answer that might come straight to the butt of the question. Sometimes you'll be more effective. I've always said that. I didn't have time to make my answer shorter. So I just suggest this, and that way we can take more questions from the audience. Okay. First question really has to do with the business community in Japantown. We've gone through COVID. We've gone through now a number of issues, some of which our candidates have spoken about. That has been detrimental to the business community here in Japantown. There are store vacancies as they are throughout the city of San Jose. So, how can we continue to support this business community? So the question is, what small business incentive programs would you promote to bring about increasing supported business to San Jose Japantown? And the first person to respond to that will be Mr. Trujillo. Andrew?
Anthony, thank you. I believe that our small business community is the lifeblood of District 3 and the lifeblood of San Jose, and City Council needs to do everything it can to support that community. I think that really starts by doing a better job of educating people about the programs that already exist within our city government to support their businesses. For example, the city has a storefront activation grant program that can provide up to $15,000 for new business owners who fill vacant storefronts in San Jose. The city should be making sure that we collaborate with local organizations, neighborhood associations, business organizations, to make sure that we're promoting and educating folks about the resources that already exist to support our entrepreneurs. For Japantown in particular, given its unique identity as such a cultural hub in San Jose, I would love to work with the Department of Economic Development and Cultural Affairs to promote new incentive programs that specifically look at incentivizing business owners to take over and revitalize historical resources in Japantown, like J-Town Pizza has done a few blocks from here, or businesses that provide unique cultural offerings that really complement the unique culture here in Japantown. Beyond that, I would say that we should continue partnerships that have proven successful with groups like SJBA and SJMA, like the moment pop-up shops. There's one just a few blocks from here in Japantown. I love perusing the offerings there. I think it's a great program that really lowers the barrier to entry for business owners who want to set up shop in San Jose. Finally, I'd say encouraging new housing development can be part of the solution here. The Planning Commission recently voted on a proposal to allow some new infill housing over on Taylor Street. And I think as long as that housing is built responsibly with the neighborhood in mind, it can provide additional residents and additional foot traffic, only Japantown even more attractive location for business investment and RVs. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question. What business incentive programs would you promote to bring about businesses to San Jose Japantown? Ms. Gabby Chavez-Lopez.
Thank you. So Japantown is a treasure, not only for our city, but for our entire region. And I think we should be treated as such. I think it's really seen as a model of what a community can look like and feel like when culture is centered, when diversity is prioritized, and when someone's cultural heritage is recognized as somebody who has centered culture and identity and heritage in everything that I've done in my career. I think I see the importance in that, and I see the importance of playing to our strengths as a city. And Japantown is a huge strength of D3. Since I moved here 22 years ago, I mean, it was the only retail that was close enough within walking distance from my home. And, I frequent it with my son, I frequent it with friends and family, and I think that being that I have a background in destination marketing, I think it could be also an incredible tourist attraction to bring additional revenue to the city. So I think we need to be partnering with Team San Jose and others that are promoting the city and really highlighting and featuring Japantown. As it relates to incentives, I also agree we need to make sure that our local community and neighborhoods are drawn to our downtown and also our Japantown area, because I've lived in this community for many years and I have never received necessarily a flyer or some kind of promotion to my door. So being able to do some guerrilla marketing and just getting out in the neighborhoods and letting people know about the offerings and the incredible cultural richness that is our Japantown. So Obviously, the city has incredible programs that it's offering to incentivize businesses, and so we need to continue to promote those and make sure that we're working with our community-based organizations that are working with our corridors, our business corridors, to get that information out to their businesses. But most importantly, we all can do our part in supporting Japantown businesses by frequenting and inviting others to do so as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wade, same question?
I'd like to see. Did I do something? Yeah. So I'd like to see a coalition of community organizations, churches, schools, education systems. Way back years ago, there was something called TIP, Jobs Training and Leadership Program. And it was a coordination of the community organizations. I think that the community is a diverse community, and we need input from everyone. I think that
Hold the mic closer to your mouth. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the creation of this organization would be providing the community input into what needed in San Jose in District 3. It would provide the community ways to direct the education and the job employment services. That's the kind of thing that I would set up for District 3 so that they would have input and raising revenue and bringing in dollars for the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Smith.
Thank you. We get this question a lot. A lot of businesses need a jumpstart, but we need to dig deeper than just general business, and we need to dig even deeper than we would for the core, because this is Japantown. You must go down to the micro level. We have to avoid things like the Jordan trade experience of going and having permits and a vicious circle and over expenditures. We have to stop losing small businesses like Subaru, Leninki Bakery, and San Jose Tofu. And we have to start saying yes to the unique character and legacy of Japantown. This is where the special use designation comes into play, to maintain culture and jumpstart small businesses. Part of this plan is it would require commercial use to be compatible with cultural and historic integrity, compatible with neighborhood character and design aesthetic. It would secure Japantown's future as a thriving commercial and residential district. And Japantown would become an incubator for small business with community orientation. This means Japantown could set planning direction, they can do zoning, they can do approval over business types in Japantown. They can develop their own influence over incentives, tourism, and marketing. I would also like to start a small business legal defense fund for all small businesses, but especially to address what Royce is going through right now. In San Francisco, Japantown has the SUD program, the special use designation, and they received that after the terrible redevelopment in the 60s. JNA, JBA, and JCC have done exceptional work to preserve, protect, and promote. Let's give them more tools.
Thank you. Mr. Dome, you're next.
Since this is a historic district, I think we could all think outside the box more. We could make this some type of an entertainment zone or less cars travel that they have to go through. They have to pay a 25-cent fee or $1 to get through their cars, so the traffic would be less. As an entertainment zone, we could look at other big companies that are of Japanese heritage, try to get in here. I work with a local sushi company, and they opened 3 restaurants. And if the city could help them get in downtown Japantown, I'm sure they'd be more than happy to open another restaurant in downtown Japantown. So, kind of 3 businesses, 1 in Cupertino, 2 in San Jose. We need to put this more on the map of San Jose promoting Japantown more. We talk about San Jose Japantown, but we talk about San Jose Japantown enough. More promotion, we get with promoters, maybe have more festivals in Japantown where people can pay more money to get in because it's a safe environment, but more money for Japantown and culture.
Thank you. Mr. Quivano? Yes.
Thank you. Once again, Matthew Kibet, good to see you all. Something, you gotta think of what a council office is supposed to do. It's supposed to represent the residents and the businesses of the district. As a council member, my job would be ensuring that our team, the team that I would hire, is responsive to you. I would focus on hiring a dedicated staff member whose job is to help the businesses in Japantown and in the commercial districts around this district, ensuring they are able to better navigate the very many complex systems that we have at City Hall. The long-term plan, of course, folks, is to simplify the permitting program. Knowing we have a lot of work to do, we have to work with the Japantown Business Association and other key groups to ensure we're making that team and expanding it, but streamlining that service and bringing more dollars and investment to it. But in the interim, in the more immediate sense, what can we immediately do? I can hire one person who's dedicated to be responsive to you, to help you get the permits you need, and get you connected with the colleagues at City Hall so they can help you through whichever program you mentioned. Many of the programs mentioned already were ones I was going to bring up, like the storefront vacancy program, which helps small businesses. Something we need to think about a lot more is how do we retain businesses? We have some great programs that exist that we need to educate people on how when you're starting your business, how to get off the ground, reducing costs for permits and fees and other items. But when you've been in business for some time and you're facing challenges, how is it that we can help retain you and ensure that you stay in business in key places like Japantown? Working with the Business Association, again, is crucial, but understanding items such as the historic designation, which sometimes becomes an issue when somebody is trying to update a building in areas like Japantown, it becomes very complex, very costly, and detrimental to the businesses here in the district. We need to work with the Business Association and key players to change and streamline those processes at City Hall. Thank you all.
Thank you. Mr. Dorn, your response?
Yes. A lot of great ideas. Definitely, I concur with many of them. Also, I would add to that, we need to streamline the permitting process and regulation, which can just take so much time and effort and money and turn really developers and storefront owners, restaurant owners, turn them away. So we need to work on the regulation process and streamlining also the permitting process. We can work on things like tax incentives, tax deferrals, grants to get more people, more business owners attracted to this area. We can have mentorship programs that can help small businesses and help them not only survive, but to thrive. And just foster that business-friendly environment that businesses from not only this area, but also the total Bay Area and beyond would be attracted to this area. Now, all that said, again, we've heard a lot of great ideas. However, and many of these you probably have heard before, we have to start with the trust. The residents of District 3 will not, if they don't trust their local leaders, they're not going to buy into their vision. So we need to restore that trust. And part of the way we do that is constantly, on a continuous basis, meeting with the residents of Japantown and seeing let's see what kind of grades we're doing. Not just show up every 6 months or so, but on a regular basis show up for we can get the constant feedback that if we need to course correct to better incentivize more businesses to come in, that's what we need to do.
Thank you. Well, I think it's clear that the program is by all candidates to support businesses in Japantown. But in addition to the significant business in Japantown, Japantown is special because it's one of only 3 existing Japantowns left in the United States. And of course, some of the wonderful history is now being captured at the Japan American Museum, which is just a few steps from here, and talks about migration, talks about a bit of that history, the Japanese American experience that is so often not known or not taught sufficiently. So the question we want to ask now is, and I'm assuming there is, and you've all spoken to, but the value of the historic importance of Japantown and it as a community in San Jose. What would you, if elected to become a city council person representing D3, do to ensure that this area is historically is protected, culturally, and the culture is preserved? What steps do you do to ensure this, that it doesn't just get lost like some of the other smaller Japantowns in other communities? We'll start with you, Mr. Quezada.
Thanks for the question. Japantown's history is one that is just such a story that is so powerful to the San Jose story. I think of Coach Achida, I think of Norman, and I think of the important figures who came out of Japantown and made it an incredible place, not only here in the city, but across the country. So to the point that Gabby brought up earlier, I think it is so important to continue to tell that story, celebrate that story, and partner with key organizations like the museum and others to ensure that story is said all across the city. I remember being a young man reading those stories and being inspired by them, and it encouraged me to get more involved in the process altogether. Something we also can do is make sure we're educating folks about the Mills Act, an important piece of legislation from the state of California that allows for folks who have designated historic buildings to get discounts on their property taxes, whether it comes to commercially owned or a residential owned property. This can help folks better sustain themselves for the cost of their business or the cost of their homes and the upkeep of these traditional and historic homes. Making sure that our folks in this business association and the neighborhood association understand this act is a crucial job for the council office to enact and fulfill. Another part is making sure that City Hall is well staffed to be able to provide great service. We only have one member of our team in the planning department. Her name is Dana Peak. Some of you might be familiar with her, but she is the sole member who historic items come through at City Hall. That is not only true for her team, it's true for many departments, where it's one of the most thinly staffed city halls for any major U.S. city in the country. Something I will ensure we do is we're investing in teams like Dana's to expand it and allow for it to help assist the business association, the residents, as they go through the complexities of the historic designation and ensuring we're streamlining those processes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wade, same question?
District 3 is a historic center. Years ago, Japantown was burned down. We had a hospital that was destroyed. What I want to do is bring back a hospital. In fact, I want to bring 2 hospitals to District 3, focusing on Eastern medicine and Western medicine. I want San Jose, as I mentioned, to be the hope of Silicon Valley. With that, bringing in that hospital, we can increase our revenue system. I want it to be a tourist attraction as well. This hospital will not only be Eastern and Western, it will also be an underground hospital. I want it to be the biggest hospital in the state. We can do that, and we can increase our revenue, and we can increase the safety and health of our residents in District 3.
Thank you. Mr. Duran, same question?
Yes, we should always look to maintain and strengthen the cultural heritage of our immigrant populations here in San Jose, because they have so much to the enrichment of the entire community with their unique traditions, customs, food, music, and religious values. While assimilating into the American culture is key, we want future generations to appreciate the contribution of our immigrant forebears. In reference to Japantown, we should encourage residents, businesses, and organizations to develop strategies to attract new businesses to Japantown from throughout San Jose and the greater Bay Area. We should encourage our schools to bring students here on field trips to learn and appreciate the culture. We should encourage Japantown merchants to offer internships and apprenticeships to local students. And encouraging also Japantown advanced street fairs and festivals and marketing them more aggressively. We should form bonds with National Historic Preservation Societies and seek their guidance on preserving our own ethnically specific neighborhoods and communities, because losing them would be devastating to not only Japantown, but to the entire region. And there's many examples we can go on out of Northeast San Francisco. We can talk about different things, but we have to, preservation. How do we preserve? How do we protect it? Public safety. A lot of us know and see for our own eyes in the Japantown area and the greater area of District 3 that people have not been held accountable. We want to be compassionate, all of us. I believe all of us have compassion, but I believe in what I call compassionate accountability. You can't be compassionate if there's no accountability, and we need to start to enact that ASAP.
Thank you. Same question about cultural preservation, Ms. Chavez Lopez.
Thank you for the question. I think just recognizing that preservation is an action word, and the one thing we've witnessed over the last few months in particular is how important the local level is in preserving and protecting our local residents from things that are happening at all different levels of government. So I think that's a charge of any local representative, is that they're making sure that they're protecting and preserving the community and the district in which they represent, and that's first and foremost. And I'm always going to say that the answer is through partnerships. I mean, Japantown is not only important to the D3 council members, Japantown is important to so many elected officials throughout the area that identify as the API, and it's been a treasure for them. It has been a landing place, a grounding place for many cultures, and so I think it's about expanding allyship in that fight to preserve and protect a heritage and diversity and a cultural pride that makes up the city of San Jose, that makes up our county. And I think really engaging others in that pursuit is going to be super important, because one person standing alone cannot protect and preserve and provide for a community. We have to stand together and invite others into that preservation effort. And so I think it's really through partnership, it's really through engaging people at all levels of government that care deeply about preserving culture in our district and bringing them to the table. So I think it's a way in which that the council member can really honor the legacy of Japantown and being able to think about what the future can look like, and making sure that it's a priority, again, for the district, making sure it's a priority for the office, and saying this is a gem, this is the strength of our district, and we want to continue to provide it the capacity, the resources that it needs in order to drive economics, to drive community, and so that's what I would do as a council member.
Thank you. Mr. Trujillo?
Thank you. My husband and I are actually fortunate enough to live in a historic home in a city landmark district, so we understand the importance of preserving our local history here in San Jose. I think that's especially important in a neighborhood like Japantown, a city like San Jose, given that San Jose is the only large city in the United States to have a plurality Asian American population. So we need to do what we can to celebrate the contributions of our immigrant communities, preserve the history and culture of Japantown, and also do what we can to share the stories of some of the communities that we've lost over the years, like our Chinatowns and Pinoy towns, so people keep the memory of those places alive for future generations. Zooming out to the national level right now, we see that women's rights are under attack, the queer community's rights are under attack, and we have seen renewed attacks against our immigrant communities here in San Jose and throughout the country. So against that landscape, I think it's really important that we work to educate people about our local history here in San Jose, including the darker chapters of our history, things like the destruction of our Chinatowns and the period of Japanese internment, so that folks know about the past and we can hopefully prevent some of these mistakes into the future. In terms of what the City Council can actually do in terms of preservation, I think that we need to look at supporting our existing cultural institutions, arts organizations, local businesses, to make sure that they are protected from displacement as we see increased development in San Jose. We need to keep an eye out for preserving our existing historical resources, providing incentives to invest in restoring them and finding new uses for them so that they can contribute to the vibrancy of our community. And we also need to make sure that as new development is coming into Japantown, that we are finding ways to make sure that new development enhances the character of our neighborhood. A few good examples here is the corporation yard redevelopment, which saw the dedication of a new public park, which had historical elements to help educate folks about Japantown's history, as well as the dedication of a new performing arts space to again support local arts organizations to make sure we're preserving culture here in Japantown. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dillon, take a question.
Well, Japantown is a historic, we all agree with that. It's a beautiful place. I think we should, we can get more with the Congress, get more with our elected leaders in Congress, our senators, and get some type of grants, get more money into the downtown. I think that's what we really need. More money obviously helps, and we all have a vision of what we want. As an elected leader, I want to see your vision. I want to make your dream come true. My job is to go to each and every one of you and understand your dream and your vision of how to preserve Japantown.
Ms. Smith, same question.
Given the legacy of outrageous discrimination, from the Asian Exclusion Acts, to the mass internment, through wanton demolition of Japantowns in San Francisco, Sacramento, and Stockton post-World War II, we need to preserve, protect, and promote Japantown as Japantown, not just another commercial strip with chain stores. This is my key reason for promoting the special use designation for Japantown to preserve culture. And how does SUDS work, I'll call it. I'll read from San Francisco SUDS. It will require commercial uses to be compatible with Japantown's cultural and historic integrity, neighborhood character, development pattern, and design aesthetic. It will secure Japantown's future as a historical and cultural heart of Japanese and Japanese American community. Japantown needs government structure that equally addresses the needs of long-term residents with people who will join us for the first time in the future. We need to preserve the history while we develop. That's our critical success factor for Japantown. We can think local and act local, and we can empower D3 neighborhoods to have more control over their own neighborhoods. And we can make sure that Japantown is Japantown.
Thank you. I think we need to change the pace here a little bit. So before I go on to the third question, which also has 2-minute answers, I'm going to go for a 10-second answer. We're going to start at this end, go right down. And the question is, what is your favorite food?
Mexican food.
I would also have to say Mexican food.
Hi. Sushi on Suru.
And hot food. Mexican food.
Shrimp fried rice.
Oh, wow. Mr. Wake, he loves to me. I'm Chinese. I should have been all Chinese food now. Okay, let's get back to the serious questions. But thank you for that indulgence. Food is an important part of our lives, right? And I think most of us like multiple foods. And the cultural foods that we have in the Bay Area is just very special. So, with something that we're also getting a lot of cards, 5 or 6 of you have asked basically the same question. I'm going to load it on to you. This really has to do with safety. The concern about safety and cleanliness, the concern about RV parking, impact of bike lanes, restricted parking, unregistered vehicles, RVs being parked, encampments in the neighborhood, cleanliness. Quite a few of you asked these kinds of questions, but there's also the third question that the sponsoring organizations have asked our candidates to focus in on it. So the question is, we know there's a housing problem and a homelessness problem throughout the city. We see the impact in our neighborhoods. And there have been lots of incidents that have occurred, not only in Japan, but throughout the city of San Jose. But there's a lot of different development at the same time going on. The illegal dumping, RV parking, blight, abandoned vehicles, drugs, So the question is, what would you do to create a sustainable resolution so these incidents are not constantly requiring a response to service on a regular weekly basis by residents and business owners? This is a concern to the many residents who live in the community as well as business owners. So I think it's key to say sustainable resolution, and what would you recommend? And we'll start with Mr. Cuevana.
Hi everyone, Matthew Givetto again. I've already worked through City Hall on supporting Proposition 36. It was a proposition that was on ballot in November. Over 70% of California voters supported it. And it's a proposition to hold people accountable to the crimes they commit. I was a big champion of that proposition, and it's something that we need to work with our district attorney's office, who's endorsed me, to make sure it's implemented at the police department level. That is something that is going to get us back on the road to accountability, ensuring people who commit crimes are held accountable. It hasn't been a rare day, folks, where I've gotten a call from a business owner or resident along Jackson Street, Japantown, who said a person was on the street breaking glass, assaulting individuals who were just passing by. I've told people, your first call, of course, is 911 always. Your second call is call me. I want to be out there and be responsive to help support and ensure these types of policies are being implemented to the fullest. We need to ensure we're rebuilding our police department and making sure our family staff department, which is already 2 minutes over its time goal of priority 1 calls, the most urgent calls, rebuilding that department to ensure officers can respond in a timely manner to incidents that matter most to you. And so that is something I've taken on. I've already moved forward with that. On the homelessness situation, folks, we've been solving the problem in terms of building interim housing, safe sleeping, and other types of sleeping solutions. We need a fair share policy. District 3 has hosted a large share of interim housing solutions. We have the first safe sleeping site moving forward in the district as well. We have supportive housing, which has caused some issues along 4th Street, where there was no plan in place when that item was voted on a couple years back to create a no encampment zone and no return zone. I know it's something that Director John Risto, sorry to call you John, would appreciate the support on, knowing that when a vehicle is parked somewhere, breaking the safe community code, we need to hold that owner accountable. We are held accountable to that standard. We need to make sure that RVs and others are being held to that same standard. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Mr. Wade?
Look, this issue of life and safety, public safety, it is an outgrowth of the homeless problem. I worked in 5 cities and counties in the Bay Area. I know what it's like to be homeless. I know that everyone that is homeless is not somebody who's a drug addict. That occurs in cycles. There's something that triggers us as human beings that throws us off the rail. Losing your job can trigger you. A birth in your family can trigger you. Being married can trigger you. All these things can affect your ability to maintain the standard of living that you're living. So I have a plan and a way to solve the homeless issue. It isn't building small homes and throwing people in there. And how are they going to pay the rent? We need wraparound services. As a marriage, family, and crisis counselor, I developed all of that. We need to provide people health care. We need to provide them education and training. These are things that will help them get on the path to sustainability. As far as housing is concerned, there are several examples of successful housing and employing homeless people. We can do, as I mentioned earlier, 3D housing, we can do underground construction. All these things are available at a cost less than what we're paying now. So these are things that I would look at as a council person. And this is the way that we would solve homeless life, and being homeless is not a common.
Thank you, Mr. Trevino.
Thank you. Given the scale of our housing affordability and homelessness crises, it is just a fact that we're going to need much more capacity in terms of affordable housing, supportive housing, and interim shelter spaces. But these programs are only going to be effective if these developments work with our local communities, and if every community in San Jose is doing their fair share to support solving this crisis. I think this really starts during the development process when we are looking for sites to build these new sites for affordable housing and shelters. So we need to make sure that we are updating our city's outreach policies to make sure that neighbors are informed of developments that are coming into their neighborhoods and they have real channels to provide feedback. Once these sites are up and running, we need to make sure that we have channels for people to flag incidents and that those incidents get resolved in a timely manner. But we also need to learn from the incidents as the sites continue to operate. And we need to be proactive in updating our policies and protocols so that folks don't have to continue to report the same sorts of issues over and over again. If we look at illegal dumping, I think it's very clear that the city needs to invest more heavily in enforcement here. Council has looked at policies here of increasing camera coverage, providing tip lines for illegal dumping, and I support continuing to explore those options to make sure that we can actually enforce the laws for homeless. In terms of lived-in vehicles and RVs, I think the first step here is making sure that the city's existing lived-in vehicle abatement pilot program is effective. Once that's been proven out, we need to make sure that we are investing in expanding the permanent no parking and tow-away zones for lived-in vehicles in tandem with building up our safe parking site capacity. That's the only way that we're going to prevent these vehicles from just moving from one neighborhood to the next. And this will allow us to become centralized into a location where the city can provide wraparound services, jobs training, case management to help get folks back on their feet. And in terms of drugs and other criminal activity that is a concern for residents around these sites, we need to make sure that we are enforcing the laws that are on the books, and we need to make sure that we staff with SJPs so they can respond in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Duran?
Yes, it comes down to public safety. You won't have a thriving community if people are not being held accountable. We're all under one flag, and we are all accountable. It's just, you don't have to change the laws, you just have to change how you enforce the laws. And as the money continues to be dumped, billions and billions and billions of dollars, the homeless problem has gotten worse. So what's the issue? What seems to be the issue? I don't believe it was by coincidence when we had the prison realignment justice reform and they released a lot of the formerly incarcerated persons that the homeless crisis exploded. So we moved into one problem and now the people that were incarcerated, now many of them are now homeless. So we never solved the problem. I believe in getting to the root of the problem. Putting a house over someone does not solve the problem. I believe that we need to lobby city, county, state, and federal government to open up more mental health facilities. And also drug rehab centers to help those who are struggling with addiction. I personally, while canvassing on Saturday, was assaulted by a mentally ill person. She swung at me, I moved, she hit my arm along with my paperboard, and actually was sore for about a day. Couldn't believe it. And the person that was in charge of her said, "Hey, are you okay?" I said, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine." We need to start to lobby the government in all phases to open up mental health facilities and rehabilitation centers. And I do believe in safe sleeping sites as well, because there are those people just not making enough. Thank you.
Ms. Smith? Our audience, please, no applause or hooting or anything like that.
So Matthew's right, we need to keep focusing on Prop 36 and making sure that we have criminals who are sent appropriately to prison. And you know, we also can't always count on volunteers like myself to make sure that the streets are being patrolled and being safe like we did with Rich Sago's program. We are playing currently whack-a-mole with homelessness and misery. Just like Anthony said, we can't keep pushing this problem around, whether it's RVs or that we're clearing a site at Watson Park. We need to have a solution. And part of my plan is to focus on large-scale congregate community housing. And this is based on sprung structures. Sprung structures have 65 sites across the United States.
6,500 beds across the United States. We have none of those large-scale structures in San Jose, none of them. There are sprung structures all over California, but not in San Jose. So when we see posts from Roy's about folks who are sleeping on the sidewalks, harassing customers, a lot of that can be addressed when we get shelter for these folks. And in that large-scale shelter, the incremental ladder of housing success is where we can do group therapy, where we can offer PO boxes, where we can offer job training, and get people from one rung of housing to the next rung of housing. But right now, housing is it's blocked up. We need to be able to get that housing produced a lot faster. But in the meantime, we shouldn't be allowing people to live in misery. So we can provide some shelter. While they're there, we're building the real housing that they actually need. But in the meantime, we have a transition plan that takes people to the next level of housing.
Thank you. Mr. Gilmore.
This whole crisis is one of the reasons why I came to jump in this race. Every day I see it. I see the drugs, I see the graffiti. Everybody talks about solutions and having solutions. Prop 36 was passed, great. People need to start being held accountable. They need to start going to jail. If you're a homeless person and you're a mother with a child, you should be the first priority. After that, it should be a family. If you're a grown man by yourself, you need to get off the drugs. You need to get a job. We can't just keep talking about this. We have to have some actions and some type of solution. My solution, if you're an RV, you're unregistered, you're going to be towed by the city. If you don't have the money to get your truck or RV out, you don't get it anymore. It should be out there unregistered. We need a hardline approach to this. Because everybody standing here having solutions to talk about is not getting the job done. We need somebody to go in there with a hardline approach and get the job done in homelessness. We don't need to come out of our house all the time and see this. It's time to put up or shut up with homelessness.
Thank you all. We've now completed the 3 questions that were submitted in advance to each of the candidates so they came prepared to respond. Oh, I'm sorry. I got an issue. Ms. Chavez Lopez, sorry. Very good.
Yeah, well, I think the one thing we can all agree on is that many of these issues that are brought up, whether it's flooding, abandoned vehicles, irresponsiveness, have really been, city services not meeting the needs of our residents in a timely manner. And I think we got to look at, as somebody who has, 13 employees myself, we got to look at how are we empowering our city staff? How are we listening to those that are inside of these departments that are working day in and day out, that are experts in this area and see, what is the issue? And sometimes it's as simple as connecting them to another city department. Sometimes it's, being able to facilitate that as a representative of the district. And so I think that there is something about setting a culture, at City Hall to where people are responsive to needs and that they feel inspired and they believe in the strategy that the city is taking. And what I will say is I don't think that there is an aligned strategy from the city and the county and the state level. I think that we're all going at it in different ways. And so we aren't achieving a goal at the end of the day. And so I'm going back to partnership. The city is not going to solve this issue alone. It's not going to tackle it alone. They're going to need partnership with the county and with the state. And that's why I'm proud to have the support of Supervisor Betty Young, because she believes and she knows that in order to implement and be able to represent the district residents of District 3, we're going to have to partner on this. And it's a huge issue, and there are needs that are needed in terms of mental health support services, drug support services. There's a lot of things that the city cannot do and isn't equipped to do that the county can, and we got to leverage each other's strengths, especially in a budget deficit year. And so I really think that we need to look at not only the micro about who is actually the one deploying these services, but also looking at the bigger macro picture of how are we going to finance these plans and how are we going to align as different agencies to be able to have a shared goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll go to questions from the audience, and they're given time, so timers. This one will be a 30-second response. And we'll start with, let me tell you what the question is so that you'll have a chance to respond. think about the response. Please share your views on billboards in San Jose, particularly new electronic billboards that we're seeing in D3 and downtown. We'll start with Ms. Smith, then Mr. Doan, Mr. Trujillo, Ms. Chavez, Doran, Wade, and Ms. Leibach. So this is sort of the opposite order of the question 3. Ms. Smith, 30 seconds.
So I've said this before, the short answer is no, and the long answer is no. I've been working on this project for a long time, trying to get attention from the city council. We had a 2021 survey, a 2022 survey. Everybody has said, no, we don't want it, and yet the city council will vote tomorrow. Please be there to decide whether or not we will get these large billboards in downtown San Jose. I say, if we really want that revenue, why don't we put it in Santana Row? Why don't we put it in D10? Why is it always going into D3?
Thank you. Mr. Doan, your response? 30 seconds.
I didn't know about the billboard crisis, so I work with a lot of local businesses downtown, and I never heard one thing about a billboard crisis or anything about the billboard crisis. I'd like to learn a lot more about that, and for me, I would not have a problem with billboards.
Mr. Trujillo?
Thank you. Everyone here has already said, everyone in this community appears to be pretty uniformly opposed to these billboards coming downtown. I understand the budget constraints that the city is under, and they need to look for unique and innovative ways to generate additional revenue. My feedback here would be that if the city council is going to force these billboards on downtown residents who said uniformly that they don't want them, then at the very least we should ensure that that revenue is going back and being invested in District 3 to support programs like arts, culture, and tourism. Thank you.
Ms. Chavez Lopez?
Yeah, so we've been talking to residents about this over the last month or so, and also referred to as light noise, I think, in our communities, and so I want to highlight that. But I think time, place, and manner really does determine the use of billboards. And so, again, I'm educating myself, I'm learning about the different opportunities that we might have in terms of location placement, in terms of timing and placement, and so right now I do hear that residents do not want this, but if we should bring them to our neighborhoods, I think residents need to be engaged in what that looks like after the fact.
Thank you, Mr. Duran.
Yes, I'm still worried about billboards, electronic billboards, and it seems to me that many of the residents do not want it. I'd like to know more about it. Reimagine, are we thinking Las Vegas type? What do we, that is an absolute no. Are we thinking other, and where are the placements? Where are they talking about it? And if that is correct, are they only talking about it in this area, District 3? Why not on the other areas of San Jose? So placement, I want to see, reimagine what they're talking about exactly before I can make a final decision on my support or not.
Mr. Wade?
My thought is no. I think it's offensive to the community. I think it's offensive to the sex of the city. I would go no.
Mr. Wade?
I am no. I'm also, I've been no. I've been working with John Miller, Les Levitt, and making sure they're organizing and working with the community to ensure their voices are heard. Obviously tomorrow it's not looking like that's going to happen. There's already a brown with 5 votes ready to support this thing. Another vote will secure this moving forward. It's the truth. To Anthony's point, if this does move forward, which it looks like it may, let's make sure the revenue stays within District 3. But this is an important lesson in politics. We need to make sure we're well organized always and paying attention to the issues coming down the road to prevent this from moving forward. If we disagree.
Thank you. Now, response is good. This one, we'll give it a minute. And the question is, what can or should the City Council do to protect our community's most vulnerable members, particularly given current federal policy guidelines that seem to be targeting some of our community members? What can the city do specifically to protect our undocumented members and the increasing what we're seeing as ICE raids in our community at the schools and churches and so forth? So serious question, but a minute. See what you can answer, what you can say in a minute. So, okay, let me give you a few more minutes to think about it. What can we do? What can the city of San Jose do?
Feel safe and secure in our city, regardless first fourth recent memo that came before City Council looking to strengthen and reaffirm our sanctuary city policies, and also pave the way for providing legal aid for immigrants who are navigating this process with increased ICE rates. We also need to make sure that we are engaging our rapid responder members so that we can respond on the ground when there are reports of ICE activity throughout our communities. I'll just say that, frankly, we are only a few weeks into this administration. I fear that the worst is still yet to come. We do not know what is on the horizon, so we need to make sure that the city is being nimble, doing everything we can to push back against the worst grievances of this administration. And we really, again, need leaders who have courage to stand up to bullies in the federal government like Donald Trump.
Chavez Lopez.
Yeah, so somebody who has really spent my career in supporting and protecting and elevating, marginalized communities that have been historically marginalized, but also experiencing acute discrimination. I think we need to center those voices in the solution as we move forward. We have to make sure that we're engaging those communities in what is best and what they can really follow their lead truly in that moment. And also lean on our trusted messengers in the community, our community-based organizations and those that are trusted messengers. Right now, when fear is being inflicted on so many in our community, I think it's time that we lean on those trusted messengers and make sure that we're partnering with them. And, what I've done in the last 30 days was we hosted a rapid response network training for over 100 community-based organizations, and that was our small part in this larger conversation about how do we protect and equip community members with the resources that they need should these communities be targeted.
Thank you. Mr. Wade.
We are subject to federal and state laws. There's very little we can do aside from resist and unite with the community in supporting our immigrant, our undocumented, and underserved, and underprotected. As a community, we can do that. What that will end up being is a challenge in court. So I think that's about what we as a community can do, is we can say no and resist, but understanding that it will eventually end up in court.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
So with Mayor Matt, I completely disagree with his support of the electronic billboards in downtown, but I do absolutely commit and support to what he's been saying about undocumented folks in our community. They deserve our support. As I am a representative, as a council member, they will be supported by me whether they are documented or not. We hope that ICE continues to have their focus on folks who are having criminal acts and are behaving violently and are threats to our community. And that we hope very firmly that they will be folks who are law-abiding completely alone.
Mr. Doe?
This question is a little hard for me because I work with a lot of community that's undocumented. I'm not very keen on undocumented, obviously. I don't mind it. I just think the best thing to do is just kind of lay low, be quiet, not say anything. Like he said, it's going to go to a court, it's going to go to a federal court, and there's not much the city can really do about that.
Thank you. Mr. Crisanto?
Mr. Ghetto. The city department, the police chief came out right away and said that they will not enforce federal law. It is not the job or the duty of your local law enforcement to implement federal law. And so that helps us when there's a crime committed. When the person who's undocumented witnesses the crime, you, me, everybody wants to ensure that they're able to go up to the police and report that. So that's the policy of the city of San Jose. I think we need to look to our neighbors, be there for one another right now. I've been doing that for the past 15 years, really building up neighborhood associations and talking to all of our residents, ensuring they have access to the city services that they deserve. It's that type of community building that we need. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duran.
Yes, I believe that the situation has been muddied and has been convoluted. I can say that there needs to be some definitions. Repeat criminal, undocumented, violent offenders and we're going to say we are not going to work with anybody, we're just going to release them back next door to you and to me. So this hardline approach, although it sounds courageous, first of all, it is a violation of federal law, but it's dangerous for the community. You've got repeat violent offenders, and we're saying we're not going to help you. I would say that none of us want to live with a person that is undocumented and a repeated violent and/or sexual offender. We need to get some clarity on this and stop with the hardline approach.
If I could correct the record, that is not the policy of the city of San Jose. They do comply.
Thank you. We have decided not to allow rebuttals, which is something that sometimes we do at some certain forums, but for this forum, we do decide not to have rebuttals set. This is going to be a very specific question, so it's again 30 seconds. And the question is, what is your experience and knowledge of the 24-hour quiet zone along the railroad tracks, and how would you assist Japantown and the Hensley neighborhood residents in promoting this project? So clearly there's some concern about the noise from trains. So this is your question about your knowledge of and experience with the 24-hour quiet zone, and what would you do to ensure that perhaps it's enforced and promoted. And we will do it in this order. It will be, let's see, Mr. Trio, no, I think we already did it that direction. Mr. Duran, Mr. Quezado, Mr. Don, Ms. Smith, Mr. Wade, Ms. Chavez Lopez, and then Mr. Trio. So this is the opposite of what you just did. Okay, so we'll start with Mr. Duran.
Okay. I am not quite familiar with the quiet zones, 24-hour quiet zone in regards to the trains. However, if it's disrupting the neighborhoods, disrupting sleep, the patterns of it, I would be definitely want to look into it further. How many trains are coming by, and how many residents is it affecting? So I definitely would want to look further into that.
Thank you, Mr. Quezado.
Mr. Quezado, we need to make sure that we're partnering up with the neighborhood associations. The city of San Jose has quiet zones that exist across the city already. We need to double down and accelerate on those efforts. Folks, we're dealing with a quasi-federal government agency, the United Pacific Railroad. They were created in the 1860s, and they were given a lot of extra powers to ensure that they can run their business throughout the country. We're punching up in this scenario, but there are victories that we've had at the local side. We need to make sure that we're going down and working with those agencies, but we need to form local groups that can sue UPR and help us in the city.
Mr. Jones?
I think like both my colleagues here, we have to look into the situation to see if we can get an even quieter zone. Quiet zone means quiet zone, so going out there and homeless back there, or people partying on Friday and Saturday and doing drugs, it's a quiet zone. They need to be removed, and also work with Union Pacific.
Ms. Smith?
Well, we recently got the quiet zone, and it's been a problem because we have a lot of unhoused folks living on the tracks. As a result, this is jeopardizing the quiet zone that we've been able to attain. We keep asking for the Union Pacific to clean the tracks, and they're refusing to clean the tracks. This is potentially leaving them in a very precarious legal position, because if someone dies on that tracks, not only will the noise continue, but there will be a lawsuit regarding death.
Mr. Wade?
I'm not familiar with the quiet zone. It seems like a misnomer to me. They have a quiet zone, it's quiet for 24 hours. However, I do have a solution to the issue. I mentioned before, underground housing, underground tunnels, the trains go underground. To provide housing underground, that would eliminate the safety issues. So that's my solution to the 24-hour quiet zone policy.
Ms. Chavez Lopez?
Yeah, so it was like the vein of of my existence, having a newborn, with the trains going every couple of hours, literally blocks away from our house. You know, I want to shout out Councilmember Raul Corrales for really elevating this consistently for the last, I would say, 8 years that he was in office. I can't even tell you how many Union Pacific meetings we would have with a council member and others, and really it took his leadership to be able to get attention on this issue. And so glad to be supported by him and endorsed by him, and very much in support of the 24-hour quiet zone.
Thank you. Mr. Trujillo?
Yeah, as I was regarding this is a rather jurisdictionally complex issue, I would say that I think the role of the city council member here in District 3 as really leading the charge in terms of advocating on behalf of our neighborhoods and making sure that they are able to communication with Union Pacific, both in terms of lobbying for abatement of existing encampments along roadways and enforcement of the quiet zones. Thank you.
This is going to be, I'm trying to decide kind of a question. 45-second response timers, okay? So I'm going to embellish it a little bit. Yes or no? Would you be in favor of the city bringing an outside neutral third party to look at some of the city's processes for cost efficiency? Why? Oh, why not? That could be a loaded question. We're going to start at this end and just go down the road. Let's do it. Go on. Where do you start? Yes.
Okay. That's a loaded question right there. So would I be in favor of someone, I don't know, outside?
It says outside.
It does say outside.
Not somebody related to the city.
Now,
Not an elected official.
We're not thinking federal, we're not thinking state. How about business people outside District or San Jose? If it would save the taxpayer money, and if there is waste, look, we all know there's government red tape. Everybody knows that. I worked in government for 29 years. And like, when we need to spend money, we just start spending it because we don't want to lose it for the next year. There is government waste. We all know it. But it's like when everybody's fearful. The federal government, I got nothing to do with it. Right now, it's the city of San Jose. And if it saves the taxpayer money, I'm for it.
Thank you. You know, I'm all for making sure that we're doing audits, making sure that we're spending taxpayer dollars efficiently, and making sure that our government is working effectively. And I think we've seen some recent successes here. We've audited our homes and spending some of our housing programs at the city level. When it comes to the question of whether we want to bring an outside group to lead those efforts, I'm much more skeptical, because if we're not about saving money, it's the thing, you have to pay these outside groups to run these studies. I fear that this is the sort of thing that actually can just add additional bureaucracy and additional spending of taxpayer dollars when we already have departments and officials who can lead these projects. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, again, it goes back to transparency, process, and being able to really identify what is it that they are going to be auditing and what department in particular. I think it sounds like a mini Doge, and like, I don't know how that's going in terms of transparency. So, you know, I think that, you know, we need to have a clear plan, especially when we use taxpayer dollars to go after any sort of government spending. But, you know, I think I would just need way more details than just, you know, this arbitrary outside consultant looking at systems and processes. It's too vague for me. I don't even have enough information to say yes or no. I think I'm curious, like anything, I'm curious of what this looks like, and I think the voters would be very curious about this.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Same question.
Thank you. I certainly agree with Anthony and Gabby. I don't think we need a third party, but yet they're very, very expensive. But we continue to fail audits, and we cannot follow through and follow up on our own audits, whether they're from the state or our internal audits. That's where we can start making some progress. And I'm also recommending that we do zero-based budgeting, not for the whole city, but for one department at a time to determine where we can find efficiencies and where we can find departments who aren't meeting their goals and their success metrics. That way we can actually do it internally ourselves, and if we have to eventually go to an outside consultant, we have that option. But until we look at it internally ourselves, it doesn't make sense to go outside.
Thank you, Mr. Cuevado.
Yes, we already have. We have an independent auditor in the city hall that is reporting directly to the city council. The way our government works, the city manager is the true CEO. The city auditor is a separate office that doesn't report to them. They report to the city directly. They regularly do audits, and they actually get audited by other government entities of other governments and other agencies. So yes, the auditor gets audited, and very frequently we get outside accountants for the many different measures and bonds that you all have passed, we've all passed together, that we're paying into, that regularly produce reports for us to review. So yes, we are already doing this, and it is very much on all of us as residents and on the council to hold ourselves accountable to ensure we're delivering on those audits. We have actually responded to many of these audits, very frequently when those audits come out.
Mr. Dillon?
I think transparency is great. I think the city should use a blockchain approach where everything's itemized. I mean, the city with a $60 million deficit, they found $10 million. Where do they find this $10 million? We don't know. But auditing and transparency is very good. We just look at California and the high-speed rail train. So I think transparency should be number one in auditing. Obviously, we want to know where our tax money is going.
Thank you, Mr. Wade.
Auditing is important to keep track of our budgets. When I worked for the city years ago, there was always audits conducted, and there always will be. I do believe, however, there should be outside, unaffiliated, responsible audits done.
Thank you. I think there still is an interest in learning more about each of you as individuals, who you are, what things you do. So the question really has to do with, tell us a little bit more of any nonprofit organizations that you belong to, and philanthropic ones, and maybe give us a hint of your hobbies. So, 30 seconds. We'll start with Mr. Wade and work our way this way.
I have girls of 6, raised by a single parent mother. We lived District 3, went to church, Paragon Churches, Christ on 6th Street. I worked for 5 cities and families in the Bay Area. I was a marriage, family, and crisis counselor. I taught karate. And that's Oh, 10 seconds. Thank you all.
I'm Philip Dolan, 49, lived here all my life. I'm married to a lovely Vietnamese woman. We have a child that's 7 years old. He loves YouTube. He loves to watch YouTube, so we're constantly battling to get him off YouTube. Every day, he complains to me about going to school, but I take him to school every day. I make his lunch every day. I love to watch cartoons in the morning, even though Mom says no. And it's a constant, I tell him not to watch YouTube when Mom's coming home, so it's big trouble. It's just enjoying life with family and friends as we get older.
Thank you, Mr. Wade.
Yes, born and raised in the city of San Jose. I grew up in 2 different neighborhoods. I grew up in the Seven Trees community and the Vista Park community in South San Jose. I met my wife, I keep the photo in the back from our prom. I met her at 18 when we had our first job at Oak Ridge Theaters, the movie theaters down there. We have our 2 beautiful children, James and Atticus. Have our house right here on 12th Empire. Nonprofits I've been a part of rebuilding together Silicon Valley to ensure seniors can stay in their home. And then also the Silicon Valley Leadership Group to help ensure they have great transportation and housing throughout the valley.
Thank you.
My first degree is in accounting, so I actually love audits. I'm on the board of the Sentencing Alternatives Program. We take folks who have been given a prison sentence and we give them an alternative to serving that sentence. And I started the mediation program for the Pro Bono Project, where we were serving, or are serving, low-income clients from attorney services. But the courts were clogged and we didn't have enough attorneys. So we started moving them through the mediation program that I formed.
Again, Gabby Chavez-Lopez. I'm a mom. I'm raising my 6-year-old son. JC is here, and he's my pride and joy. And really care about this community. So I'm very active at San Jose State University on the President's Advisory Council. I'm also on the board of United Way Bay Area, the Yoga Center. and very active in the community. I always love to engage in our nonprofit world, and just some of the most caring and compassionate people that I've ever met. So, thank you.
Thank you. In addition to serving as chair of the San Jose Planning Commission and president of my neighborhood association, I've been happy to advocacy work with multiple local housing organizations, including Housing Action Coalition and South Bay Union. I'm actually very proud to have both of those organizations sole endorsements in this race. Beyond that, I would say that my hobbies include cooking and gardening with my husband. We also both are big fans of going out and engaging in the local theater and arts community in downtown.
Born and raised in the area, again, 29 years in law enforcement. I still work at the reentry center, raising money to help clothe those persons coming out of custody. I've served on a commission in another city, a transportation commission. Also, I have written a book, self-published a book that ended up being a #1 new release on Amazon. I'm a marathon runner, half marathon, ultra marathon, Boston marathon, over 100 of those. So that's a big hobby of mine, and I love reading books.
Thank you. Actually, I thought, one of the best questions. Thank you. It's a chance to get to know you as individuals. My family knows I'm marathon runners. I'm not. So this next question, I'm going to sort of combine two questions. We'll give it a minute. And this is really kind of a broad question to say, how are you going to represent all of District 3? You know, there are going to be competing interests and things, but how do you represent all three? And, you know, you've all had great thoughts and ideas. So has the city. You've heard them before. The mayor said he's going to do this. The city council members have said they're going to. But it seems to take a long time. Do you see yourself being able to do anything differently that would make a difference and perhaps move us forward more quickly? I think that's what the question's saying. So, got a minute to try to tackle these two questions. And we're going to do it in this order. Mr. Duran, Mr. Rosado, Mr. Wade, Mrs. Padillo, Ms. Chavez Lopez, and then Mr. Doan. Again, you know, how do you represent all residents in the community, District 3, with competing interests that you're going to have, of course, and what would you do differently to be more effective than what we've seen happen so far? Tough questions, I think, but we'll start with Mr. Duran.
Yes, I believe we're stronger together. We have more in common than things we don't. And I've been known as to be a connector. And I've been doing this all my life. In fact, I was voted most friendliest at my schools. So I'm a guy who connects everybody together and helps to achieve things. I'm a goal-oriented person. And I do believe that, we're here at a 39 million initially deficit. Now we're pushing 60 million. I do believe that we need to stop the insanity, start to reimagine, start to do things differently that haven't been working. We're throwing money at the problem, and now we're in a deficit. We're talking about maybe going into a $12 million cut at San Jose PD, and we're all thinking about public safety. So I think that me going in as a public servant, public safety officer, is in my DNA. I believe I can help City Council get in line with a public safety attitude and mindset that will help keep all of us safe.
Thank you, Mr. Hugh. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Smith.
So I think I'd like to reframe the question in terms of public input. Because right now in San Jose and D3, we're in the dark ages when it comes to public input, and we really need to bring San Jose into the 21st century. They don't listen to us. They're not listening to us on the electronic billboards. We've had bike lanes installed, and we have expert bikers in D3, and no one was consulted on how to make them better. We have Watson Park. There was all of a sudden a unanimous vote in City Council, and that safe sleeping site was decided without any input from D3 and without any notification to the neighborhood. We need to be able to have more input, and that's how I want to represent all of us. is to get our input, and we can use a whole list of tools that I can go through. But we can use tools rather than just Facebook groups that are constantly saying this or that or the other thing. We can use those tools.
Mr. Quizzle?
Yeah, we have a great organization called the District 3 Community Leadership Council that exists, and it's comprised of the presidents of the many neighborhoods of District 3. What I would do as council members ensure that it's very well funded, supporting the many neighborhood associations, and in turn ensuring those neighborhood associations are well filled with the members and residents of those communities. Through that, we can create an opportunity for a feedback loop where the council member's office is reporting directly to the members and residents on what's coming down the pipeline and hearing directly from them on how they want their council member to vote. That's the type of council office I would have, and that's what I've been doing over the past several years, building neighborhood associations so they're better participating in the city processes. We have a very complex style of government, folks. It's 180 square miles, it has over 5,000 employees, there's many different programs and policies that are in place. We need to ensure we're building a strong feedback loop. We've been fighting for the metros at City Hall to ensure we're more accountable to the numbers. That is coming online more and more. We need to ensure we're building the community component of that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Wade.
I think community culture, experience, and education is important. I grew up many years ago. I remember Martin Luther King spoke on Black Panthers. I remember being involved in those kind of community activities. I think the community D3 should be involved, and we as elected officials are servants to the community. I believe working with those community groups, setting up business groups, educational services, religious services, all those people should have input into the community and what we do. No more elected officials who just sit and make laws.
Thank you, Mr. Tree.
Thank you. As an existing neighborhood leader here in District 3, I've been on the other side of this equation, gathering input from my neighbors and passing it up to city leaders who sometimes it feels like they're just not listening. We don't even care about some of the concerns that we flag. I would say that on City Council, I would commit to having an open door policy where I would always hear folks out, both in terms of hearing concerns about upcoming policies and developments, but also if you want to hear why I voted a certain way. As an existing public official in the planning commission, I've had to answer to constituents who come and ask about our previous votes, and that's the degree of transparency that I would continue to provide on council. In terms of what I think that I can do differently to help move initiatives forward that we've started to make progress on in the past, I would just highlight that beyond engaging with our community, one of the central roles of a city council person is a policymaker. I believe that I have the policy expertise via my previous experience on the planning commission to really deliver results and hold all city departments responsible for making sure that we are working with urgency to address our neighborhood's concerns. Thank you.
Ms. Shaw.
Thank you, yeah. I mean, we have 2 years in one mouth for a reason, and I think we need to listen more, and I think that that would be very refreshing of a public official to be able to listen first, and then be able to do your research, remain open-minded. I mean, I have to remain open-minded as a leader in this community to there being a variety of perspectives, some different than mine, some the same, but at the end of the day, all points of view are important, so making sure that folks have a seat at the table, and I've been dedicated to uplifting and empowering our neighbors and our community to uplift their voices, to make sure that those most centered in the problem and those most impacted are centered in those decisions, and I wouldn't do anything differently in terms of that. But I think looking for those win-win partnerships is going to be key in all of this. And then also just remaining optimistic. I think some level of humility would be very refreshing for a council member to come in, not thinking that they have all the answers, but being willing to hear and listen and be informed would be nice.
Mr. John?
I like what he said earlier, whoever gets elected is definitely a servant, and I believe in transparency. But also I go back to my knife sharpening days, because if I was elected to council, I had to quit that job. But I think I can make like my own little route out of it, where every week I'm touching somebody or talking to somebody, if it's a block of people or this block of people, we can get the community together closer. At the end of the day, we want to be one well-oiled machine. This way we can fight back against other districts. We can make the city council listen to us. It came to a point where we are a well-oiled machine. Certain districts not listening to us, we can recall that one person from that district. Get somebody that's going to help us and work with us as a whole team.
We're really getting to the final, and because all candidates are actually going into another candidate forum in a little bit. So I'll conclude with this last question, which will be 1 minute. And we'll go with this order: Mr. Jones, Mr. Calcutes, Mr. Hill, Mr. Wade, Quezano, Smith, and then Durana. So the office will deal with the introduction. And the question is there a question that we haven't asked tonight that you wish had been asked that would help us understand some of your priorities? Question again, is there a question that hasn't been asked or hasn't been raised, or an issue, question or issue, that which had come up because it's important to you and you think it's important for this community? Okay. So, Mr. Dillon?
Yes, my question is, so I'm a self-funding candidate myself, and I thought to myself, if you're going to run for city government, especially if you're going to run for city council, why doesn't every city councilman have to self-fund themselves, and there has to be a cap of, say, $20,000? Self-funding yourself, actually, you learn a lot when you're running a race. You learn about yourself, but not also just learning about yourself, you're learning about people when you're going out there talking to them. I've had people talk to me and saying, but it's the homeless, it's throw in the ocean. Okay, and then they, oh my God, I can't say that. Jane across the street might hear me. Everybody has different views, and people might think differently of you. But when you're going door to door and you're actually talking to people because you have no money, it really makes a great difference. Listening and hearing to what people are saying and their visions and their dreams.
Thank you, Ms. Gabby Chavez-Lopez.
Yeah, so as somebody who's currently raising a family, in the city of San Jose, I always want to be asked, what can the city of San Jose do to better serve families and those that are raising children, and what is the city doing to support our youth? And I think especially in our downtown core where, parks are sometimes not always the friendliest place to young people. I think that, what can libraries do? What can parks do? What can community-based organizations do? And what opportunities are there for our youth? And I think that those are all big questions. Those are big questions that we sometimes aren't always included in the conversation. So I think really being able to talk about policies that are impacting those that are growing up in this city and making sure that we're centering those voices and that we're thinking about those families. Most importantly, that we have accessible services and they're affordable. Because last time I checked, it still isn't that way. And so, what can we do to support our youth?
Thank you. One of the things that I love most about District 3 is that we have one of the most diverse communities anywhere in San Jose. And that includes cultural diversity, but it also includes economic diversity. We're home to some of the wealthiest neighborhoods in our city, but we're also home to some of the neighborhoods most in need of your investment and support. I talk out of the doors with folks who don't feel like in our current city government that every neighborhood is being represented equally and that we're all getting our fair share of resources from the city. So the question that I would love to ask would be, how are you as a council member going to make sure that we prioritize equity and making sure that neighborhoods that traditionally haven't had strong advocates are really having a voice on the city council? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wade.
So I would like for someone to ask, what can I as a voter do to determine which of you all is my best pick? And the answer is this. I've got the things called T-graph and Halloween. On the left-hand side, you list all the attributes and characteristics of what you think is a good council person. And you put the good, bad, good on one side, bad on the other, pros and cons. Then you evaluate that, look at all of your candidates, and see who is your best choice. And you decide. You make the fit.
Thank you, Mr. Quezano.
There's two questions that I wish we asked. First wish we asked, how are you going to get it done? And then the second question I would ask is, why hasn't it been done? I had a great question the other day at a house party where a resident brought up a very important point on public safety. And she brought up a point around politics, something that doesn't come up that often and something we didn't discuss a lot tonight. We have no shortage of good ideas, folks, nor has any of the past council members or other folks. But we have the unfortunate side of the political situation that happens at city council. You need 6 votes to make anything happen. And you need 6 votes to drive forward the solutions that we're pushing for. City Hall, I guarantee you, has no shortage of plans. The county, in fact, is on its 3rd plan to end street homelessness. We need to make sure we're working with coalitions of elected leaders to hold ourselves accountable for that change. I will be a part of a building coalition so that we can ensure we're keeping our eye on the ball when it comes to ending street homelessness, rebuilding the police department, supporting our small businesses. How and what?
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
I wish that we'd ask the question, what do I think the job is going to be like? Because none of us here has had the job before. I've run for election before, but I haven't had the job before. And I disagree. I don't want to be part of a voting bloc. Because I think my job is to represent you. I think it's your voice that is important, not my voting bloc. And I think the question isn't how well you play the game. The question is how well you represent D3. And that is how I will measure my job success. Am I representing D3? Because that is my job.
Mr. Duran.
The question has not come up, I wish I'd asked, is, Adam, why are you doing this? You're retired. You don't need to do this. You have a handsome retirement. Well, the answer is, San Jose used to be considered the safest, #1 safest big city in the United States. It's no longer the case. Crime is up. There's no question about it. FBI statistics. And they ordered 900 rape retests in San Jose. Crime is up. I believe with my public safety background, almost 30 years, I believe I can make a difference and bring in a fresh, new perspective in how to get it done. And along with what Matt was saying, to be able to work with the other council members to get it done. And to be able to get the officers on board and fully staffed. How do we do that? We need to value them, we need to respect them, and we need to support them. That's how we get it done.
Well, we've now heard from all 7 candidates. Quite a slate that you have. You also began to see some differences of perspective and opinion. So thank you very much. This concludes the forum.